But look, okay, honestly, Atheist says, in these discussions, I think it's important to reflect on whether you're trying to understand your interlocutor's position or if you're just trying to prove them wrong about a tangential semantic point. Well, here's the thing, honestly, Atheist, I'm going to let Steve speak to that since he wrote a paper on this issue. But I want to say that in the very instance that was brought up a while ago in my debate with Matt Dillahunty, when young Drew came forward and brought the ire of the atheist experience, when he said that, I actually spoke up first, probably to Steve's chagrin. And I said, listen, this is actually a moment where I could take up for Matt here. For the purposes of what we're doing here, I don't really care what he calls himself. I care what he means by what he calls himself. And in general, when I'm trying to talk to someone personally or in a situation like that, where I'm trying to figure out what they believe and respond to it, it really is the case. But I think on an academic level, it's important that we have answers to these questions
because the
it brings more
semantic
clarity.
issue has logical problems. That's the point of the paper.
Yeah,
it has carryover.
Throw up the square again, and it shows right there in the square. Look, when somebody says, "I do not believe God exists," the bottom right hand corner, that's subalteration of atheism. If that's what you're telling me, if you're talking about to understand the opponent's position, and you just say, "I do not believe in God," you can see here logically that does not tell me what your position is. It tells me nothing. It just tells me you're not a theist, right? And that's a set theory, theist or not theist. That's it. And what the weak atheist wants to do is they actually want to make non-theists synonymous with atheists, which that I have shown also leads to like absurdities like rocks are atheist. I've shown that logically as well. And people say, well, I'm just going to narrow the scope to a person. It doesn't get you out of that, unfortunately, because you're talking about supersets. The superset of theism versus not theism is a complementary set that's always going to be true because of the law of negation. So in the universe, you have things that are theist, and anything not in that set is going to be the set of non-theism. So if I just rename that semantically atheism, I've now got this weird dichotomy that everything in the universe must be a theist or an atheist. There's no way to get around that. You just can't have a subgroup or subset of people after that, because you're in the superset, which is going to be rocks or atheists. This is why Aaron Ra argues rocks or atheists. He literally is using his own logic from a local argument that rocks are atheists. And he's not wrong using his thing.
I didn't know you had so much to say about Aaron Ra.
I like Aaron. It's a shame that we don't get along. It's a shame.
Yeah,
I like Aaron.
Well, maybe there can be some mending there. All right, let's see here. Siggy's back.
Thank you so much.
Turns out I've been a Huxleyan agnostic my whole life and didn't know it. Should he be a Huxleyan agnostic? Is that?
I do know some Huxley agnostics. Huxley agnostics are people that would affirm Clifford's principle, that you should only believe something if you have sufficient reason to believe it. And so if you're a Huxleyan agnostic, you're going to say, I'm only going to believe something if I have scientific grounding to believe. Yeah, because he really was basing it on scientific methodology. Now, nowadays, I call that more scientism. I do not think it's a good argument to argue that we only acquire knowledge via science. There are other ways we acquire knowledge, through rationalism, through potentialism, through pragmatism. I'm fine with other theories of knowledge. And so there's not just one theory of knowledge that gives us what we can say to know something. And
you can't
so
prove a claim of science anyway.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things in reality that science just cannot address. It's not equipped to address. That's why we have philosophy. In fact, there's a philosophy of science. What guides science is methodological naturalism.
Well,
right?
scientism is a philosophical claim, not a scientific one anyway, so it's kind of
correct.
self-referentially.
Yeah, it's a philosophical claim, right?